Hello, what is up? Oh my goodness. Global players, NA players, wow, we are eating good tonight. So you'll have to forgive my voice. I just got off stream. It was 5 hours of pure hype and excitement. We were talking about the big news. NA players are getting servant coins and level 120 early, in addition to the QP cap and the red dot favorite servant. This is massive. It's a huge bombshell set of news. I was talking with chat during the stream. I cannot think of anything bigger that's ever happened to FGO NA players. I can't think of anything. Obviously, this is really big for players, but this is perhaps even bigger for a lot of servants. So a lot of servants are going to take a huge step up as far as utility and gameplay viability goes. Some of them are going to go from sub 50% battery to now 50 or more percent battery on the first turn. Some of them are going to even become 100% first turn battery capable. Obviously, some of these append skills will depend on the ability to get late game mats, which we don't have for some of these. But for a lot of these servants, I think you'd be surprised their append skills are going to be reasonably accessible for a lot of players. So I'm excited. Let's take a look at a lot of these servants who are about to get a huge jump up. First off, and these are in no particular order, Sieg, recent welfare on a rerun in NA. Sieg has a battery that was 20 to 30%. Now with his append skill, you are looking at 50% first turn. Obviously, anyone with an arts NP is very excited to have Castoria come at least to their support list, if not to their Chaldea as a teammate. But moving up to a 50% charge is a huge boon for a looping servant like Sieg. On his append skills, it's honestly pretty reasonable. You are going to need 12 of the newest fruit mat here in LB 5.2, Fruit of Longevity. If we take a quick gander, Olympus, you'll be able to find really easy spots to farm these. I'm not saying the rates are going to be great, but at least all of these are obtainable for NA players, right? Huge. Up next, the one I might be most excited about personally, Arjuna Altar. Wow. Arjuna Altar becomes 50% capable on the first turn. He has a 30% charge on his second skill. Mine, as you might know, if you're in my community, my dude is 10'd out. He's MP5. He's level 100. He's ready to go. This is huge for him, mostly for people on the support list who can now do more damage with him on the first turn if I put him up with an aerial drive than they would with just the MLB scope that he currently has. As far as his mats go, on the append skill here, all of these, again, are obtainable. As we go through all these servants, I'll try to remember to hit all of the append tabs to see the materials, because this is going to be a quick primer. I'll also try to remember to put chapters in the description below. If I miss one, feel free to put it in the comments, right? So, Arjuna Altar, first turn, 50% battery. Ashvatthaman, not to be outdone, his Lost Belt counterpart, Ashvatthaman, also becomes 50% charge capable on the first turn. Now, when it comes to his append skills, it is going to be a little bit different. You are going to need to either wait or at least hope and see about what they might do with these LB 5.5 and then LB 6 mats later on. Personally, and I talked about this on stream, I've got some theories. I've got some things that I'm looking forward to seeing at 5th anniversary as potential possibilities. You'll have to check out stream to catch discussion like that, but this certainly opens up some doors. Let's say it like that, right? So Ashvatthaman, 50% battery first turn. Assassin Ushi, this is huge as well. Assassin Ushi has a 40% battery. Now, she's not the easiest quick looper in the game, we know that. But all you have to do is unlock her append skill. You don't have to level it at all. You just have to unlock this. So none of these materials, if you're just aiming for the 50% threshold, none of these materials are going to matter. You're just going to need enough coins to get that append skill unlocked. It's really nice for not only her, but Jarcher as well. who have the 40%, and you just want a little bit more to make a lot more CEs useful, viable, etc., right? Not to be outdone, Katsushika Hokusai, my goodness, wow. She becomes an early 50% charger due to NA getting this early. It's humongous. She is already going to be very capable of looping in the double Castoria system. Honestly, you could make her loop beforehand with the right setup, but with this going forward, it's much, much easier, especially if you've got something like an MLB Magical Girl of Sapphire, perhaps even a Painting Summer in limited instances as well. So Hokusai takes a huge step up right before we get Castoria, again, an art servant, eating good on the news that just came out. On the append skill side of things, all of these materials are obtainable. This is a little bit steep of a cost, especially right before Castoria with 15 Comet Shards. But if you're only looking for one of these skills, honestly, it's not too bad. You've got several weeks before Castoria comes out anyway. So, Hokusai, man, big winner from tonight's news. Europa, surprising enough, is also a big winner. So, on Europa's second skill, 20 to 30% battery, right? Now, we don't really think of her as like a farmer or even like a looper per se, obviously. She has a lot more utility in her other skills, the defense reduction, and then on the first skill as well, with the invincible and debuff resistance, right? Coming on down to her append skill requirements, they are indeed obtainable. Now, with these, NA calls them the Divine Spherical Vein. They are also Olympus materials, so you're gonna have to be caught up on where NA is right now story-wise to be able to get it maxed out. But honestly, if you love Europa, you are probably already done with 5.2 anyway. She was so good in that. Next up is Caster Coup. Now, I hesitated at first to put Caster Coup in here because Caster Coup really opens up gameplay-wise when this third skill gets its buff. If you play on the JP server, you probably know about this. But basically, it's a delayed 80% battery. So he uses this, it kills himself, but also he has guts. So as long as his guts doesn't pop early, he gets an 80% battery with that. There's not really a viable way to first turn stack this with the mono loading. So for NA purposes, this is more where we're looking at. His NP gauge is going to go from 20 to 30% on a reasonable 5-turn cooldown to the additional 20% that makes him a 50% charger. That's great for F2Ps of the world. However, on the append skills, what's not so great for most players is the fact that you're going to need eggs and these spherical veins as well. It's not too bad. It's a little bit high for a 3-star, but if you know about his future utility and capability, you know that Caster Coup is going to be a leveling and skilling target for many players going forward. So might as well get started on it now, right? Up next, someone you probably are not going to think, hey, I'm going to want to use this guy on a first turn basis when it comes to having that capability. But he does have an 80% battery at level 10. So if you were to unlock his second append skill and max it out, you could, therefore, NP on the first turn with no CE help. That will be useful on a specific node in Shishu Fest this upcoming fall. However, on the append skill side of things, you wouldn't really be able to make use of it because of these scales of fantasies that are not on NA. They're an LB6 material. So this is where we kind of hope for some of our more crazy scenarios to come to fruition that we talked about on stream, right? But that's Paracelsus. You're probably not looking to first turn NP with him for damage purposes anyway. And if you are, well, you know, you're probably very aware of his downfalls from a damage perspective. Next up, I was surprised by this, Columbus. I don't use Columbus. I'm not really a fan of him from a personality aspect. However, there's no denying that he does have a 30% battery at level 10. And therefore, if you unlock his append skill and max out his second append skill, you can get him to 50% first turn battery. However, down here, you will see 48 stakes. 48 stakes. You better really like Columbus to get this going. 48 stakes to get this up to level 10. Now, one thing to keep in mind, append skills, you don't necessarily have to max them. But when it comes to this conversation that we're having for the purposes of this video, obviously it's going to be an assumption that you are going to take them to 10 in order to get the 50%, because that's the only way you can do so. So that's why we bring up the 48 stakes on Columbus, right? Again, apologies, I am losing my voice. We were all so hype on stream tonight. It was just like incredible to see this news. Up next, if you are free to play, you are even more hype than all of us who are on stream. Spartacus, along with another crucial low star farmer, just went from a 30% battery to potentially 50% depending on your append skill. Now on the append skill, it's actually extremely reasonable. Yes, you need 15 chains, but chains, they're typically in the 30s or 40s, so we'll take it at 15. And 24 of the spinal fluid is really not bad at all. It's really not bad at all. So any F2P after enough friend point rolls after Monday could theoretically get their Spartacus up to a 50% first turn battery. That's really, really nice to have, especially since we do have 50% charge welfare CEs. The likes of aerial drive do come to mind, and we'll get more in the future as well. Next up, a very powerful first turn current 50% as of this update. 30% at level 10 on her first skill, going on down to the append skill. Because of the fact that she is a ruler, the materials are going to be a little bit of an extra headache, right? When it comes to the later levels, 10 of the ice, 15 of the figs, right? Before that, it's such smooth sailing, So getting up to the intermediate to early high levels of these skill levels on the append skills is going to be really easy, especially for more veteran or established players. Honestly, I could see Summer Martha being a relatively popular append skill target as far as people getting multiple of her append skills up. First skill obviously being the extra attack that it is for everyone. On her third skill, it is anti-berserker. If you know anything about the append skills, then you know that the third skill, if it has class advantage, is massive. The fact that Martha Ruler is going to have anti-berserker append skill on her third skill is so big. Again, I could easily see her being a popular triple append skill target for a lot of people, especially now that she's going to have a 50% battery at level 10. We did mention her earlier. Here is Jarcher. Jarcher on her, I believe it is second skill. Yep. Goes from a 20 to 40%. All you have to do is unlock the append skill if you have this skill at level 10. If you have it at level 10, just unlock the append skill. Which is really nice because this can be a little bit of a high cost at the upper end. But one thing I did not mention with Assassin, Ushi, and now Jarcher, you don't necessarily even have to have this skill maxed out to get the battery up to 50%, right? Simple math is going to tell us, hey, if I am at, let's say, level 8 instead, if I'm at level 8 and at 34%, right? Well, suddenly, all I need to get down the line here is just that extra 15%, right? Because if this is 34% and I add that 15, I'm sitting at 49. I give 50% battery, 99 rounds up to 100. Easy peasy, first turn NP. However, most commonly, you are going to see an unlocked append skill and skill level 10 because the NP damage does scale very nicely along with her other buffs to get multiplicative damage going the way that she does. So Jarcher definitely benefits in a big, big way from this. Murasaki Shikibu, surprisingly enough, this kind of caught me off guard. I have a Murasaki and I use her a fair amount, and it never occurred to me that this was a 30% battery, but it is. Level 10, 30% battery, level 10 second append skill, you're going to have a 50% Murasaki. You are going to have a 6-hit arts NP on that as well with Castoria coming. Now on the append skill side of things, this is a late game mat for JP server, Rainbow Yarn. It is not something that NA players have access to right now. It is high in Kyo, so in about 6 months as of this video, you will be able to get this yarn. In the meantime, we have to hope and see what kind of early bonuses or chances to get these mats we might have. In the meantime, though, she does have access to at least 18%, I believe. Pardon me. Yeah, at least 18% on that append skill. So Not full there, but we'll have to see what happens with that material. Next up, one of the best welfares we've ever had, Assassin Shiki on her evade skill. It is not that. On her third skill, apologies. It is a 20 to 30% battery. She does deal 1,000 damage to herself without killing herself. That's not really that bad, honestly. Yeah. So she'll have a 50% battery at first turn, provided you can get these materials in for her. They're really not bad. They're really not bad. 8 mirrors, 20 bells. That's really, really, really not bad. Not to mention the fact that her third append skill is anti-avenger. I mentioned this on stream. Anytime someone has anti and then it's an extra class, I really like that. That's gives me a increased proclivity to unlock that append skill and use it, simply because it allows me to use more of my own favorite servants against those extra classes who have very niche class disadvantages, right? So she's a good target to look for when it comes to that 50%. Not to mention the fact that she, again, is arts and has pretty good utility on that NP as well, right? Next up, the man who needs a buff. Just got an early one on NA. Not one in general, but one on NA. Gilgamesh, third skill. If you have this maxed out, it is now 50% capable if this is maxed and his second append skill is maxed. Also pretty reasonable from a limited SSR perspective on the append skill materials. It does require 15 of the LB 5.2 fruits, not to mention the eggs as well, but it's really not that bad. To make Gilgamesh a 50% charger and be able to use CE's like aerial drive on him, that's really nice, and he loves to have that buster up. So good looking out for Gil. This is huge for him. Now, there are some servants on this list that are not out yet on NA, but this still affects them because we are getting this bonus, this early quality of life update, well before we would have gotten it under a normal circumstances, is if we followed the JP schedule to the T. So some of these servants are not out yet, but they are still going to benefit from us getting this early. One of these is Veritra. So Veritra, who has a pretty good kit, if we're being honest. I like Veritra for a lot of reasons. One of which is the fact that she now will have 50% battery if this level 10 is here on her second skill, and on the append skill over here, you do have it level 10 as well. Surprisingly enough, a lot of these materials are very easily obtained for NA players, if not already. I find this to be pretty amenable. 12 of the horns, only 6 of the dragon scales, and then 11 mystic wine. 10 eggs as well. This is really honestly pretty within the realm of reason if you just played through the story. Like, you could legitimately have this amount of materials ready for her. Now, obviously, on the active skill side of things, that's a different story with 36 of those. But overall, it's really not bad. So you'll have to keep in mind that you will be pursuing not only the second skill at level 10, but the append skill at level 10 as well. Next up, we do have Abigail. Abigail is a huge beneficiary of the append skills coming early. She does have a NP gauge coming later this year with a strengthening quest. So the Imaginary Scramble, I think it's the pre-event campaign. Right before Imaginary Scramble, she is going to get a 20 to 30% battery on her strengthening quest. It's huge. Not to mention, as of Monday, her third append skill is Anti-Berserker. Again, that's huge. That is absolutely huge. You love to see outright class advantage on the append skills, right? Going on down here, as far as the append skills go, it is reasonable when you figure the time of her buff into it, right? What I mean is, Imaginary Scramble is going to be much later this year, 2022 for NA. Around that time, we're going to be looking forward to Kagekiyo anyway. So if we take a look at our banner calendar right here, as you can see, November is when we can expect Imaginary Scramble. The very next month is when we can expect Kagekiyo. So it's really not out of the realm of possibility to say, well, I'll get this append skill up as high as I can, and then I will just be ready to have this on hand after Kagekiyo, or do some farming once I'm done with it to get this append skill up to a level where she will have a 50% battery. So Abigail, eating good. Odysseus is also eating good tonight. Odysseus has already a 20 to 30% battery. And honestly, because of the fact that this has decent utility, you're not worried about the timing of this on his second skill. It's pretty attractive, right? Now on the on the append skill, as far as the materials go, again, it's 24 of these. That's not really that bad. It is going to be 24 rings as well. You can see some commonality in a lot of these materials. That's why I chuckled. If you have a lot of these servants, if you're looking to get a lot of them up over that level 8, 9 threshold on append skills, there's going to be a lot of the same materials coming out of your wallet, right? Your quote-unquote figurative material wallet. Next up, Bunnytoria. This is an interesting one as well. So she does have a 40% battery. If you just unlock the append skill, you'll have it at 50%. However, this is a delayed attack buff. It's 20 to 30%. So there is a use case where the first turn you have her 20% or 10% append right there ready. You use her skill, whatever combination of skill levels between the two you use to get her to level to 50% gauge, I should say. If you do that, in addition to maybe her craft essence or someone else on the field, if you're using a black rail, the next turn would be the turn to NP with her. So although she would have access to a first turn 100% gauge, you really would want to wait a turn due to this attack buff. It's just one of the quirks of her kit, but it is what it is. It's not all bad. Next up, oh my goodness, Mordred. This is huge. So Mordred has steadily become better and better and better over time anyway. This second skill used to be a letdown. It now is just insane, right? The Buster Absorption, the crit damage, the stars, right? This third skill is what makes her turn into this 50% charger now, along with the append skill, right? So the third skill, if it's at level 10, and her append skill, if it is also at level 10, then sweet, you're sitting at 50%. There is one catch though. Mordred, like some other Knights of the Round, is going to require this material right here, the Scales of Fantasies. We talked about this earlier. That is an LB6 material. It is not something that NA can expect without some kind of cool intervention from the devs to get early. However, again, let's see. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see, right? Up next, again, one of the future servants that we don't have yet that still benefits massively from this. This is Avenger Ushi. I love her to death. I cannot wait for her to come out to NA, right? Really looking forward to her. She has a very interesting kit, right? So in addition to that first, over here on the second skill, you've got the Guts. It's stackable. There's Evade for 2 attack, 3 turns, attack up, curse, all this stuff, right? She does have a 20 to 30% battery. And if we go on down here to the append skill requirement, you'll see, again, it is an LB6 material. Also a 5.5 material. So this could be a little bit more steep when it comes to a future planning perspective. But overall, she's well worth it. Trust me when I tell you this. I've been using her on our JP account a ton. She's a lot of fun. She's very strong. And she's only going to get stronger earlier for NA players because of the fact that we will have the ability to give her increased battery from the start. Increased battery from the start, right? Up next is another future servant coming very soon. This is Archer Ilya, Summer Ilya. So Summer Ilya is interesting because on her third skill, it's the 20 to 30% battery. The first two skills are a little bit gimmicky. There's the attack of child servant allies. That's fine. It's whatever. But it is the third skill, so you will have to raise her up enough to get to the third skill. Now on the append skill materials down here, to get to the amount needed to get that 50% first turn battery, you're going to need some eggs. It's really not that much if we're being honest. She is a limited SR, obviously as a summer. So a lot of fun. She's AoE. Honestly, like, I think she's worth having that 50% unlocked as soon as you can. And if that is going to be your strategy for her, I think it would pay off, especially if you have a double Scotty setup, right? You're going to do good damage with her. Looping is not necessarily in the cards for her. If you have her on JP, you know that that can be a bear, but it is what it is. Up next, Okita Alter, one of my favorites. She's eating good tonight too on the third skill. Never mind the second skill. It is a 20 to 30% battery, 20 to 30% battery, which means, again, 50% battery. On the append skill down here, extremely reasonable as an extra class servant. Now, you will need some 5.5 materials later on, but that's going to be later this year. This still is much, much, much earlier than what we would have gotten it anyway. So it's great to see that in about 6 months' time, you're going to be able, 6 months out of this recording at least, be able to farm these for a specific purpose, aka her append skills, right? Up next is an interesting one to me. This is Bryn. So Bryn has this NP gauge after a strengthening, and it is 20 to 30%. She's interesting to me because her and Sigurd, I believe, become kind of like these weird codependent, really like benefiting from each other's presence on the battlefield servants. Never been a huge fan of that. Limited SSRs requiring each other to have like that, the maximum utility isn't really my thing, but nevertheless, she will have access to a 50% battery. On her append skills down here, you will see 24 ice makes sense if you have played through, I believe it was LB2. Otherwise, it's not that bad. It is 44 proofs, but you're talking about a limited SSR getting a 50% battery, where she used to only have a 30%, and we're getting it much early on it on the NA server. So it is what it is, right? Up next, oh my goodness, one of the biggest beneficiaries, Summer Mordred. I'm such a fan. Summer Mordred, third skill, NP gauge 20 to 30%. Append skill down here, though, is really, really reasonable. Unlike her 5-star counterpart, which requires late game materials, this is all honestly not that big of a deal to accumulate if you're just going for her second append skill to get that leveled up. And speaking of that, if we're going to go for the third, it's anti-Saber, because Mordred, as a rider, you're not really looking for that anyway. So the second one is probably going to be where you'll put your focus as it is. And because of that, it's honestly pretty reasonable to get her up to that 50% threshold. It's pretty nice, right? Up next, another big beneficiary, Shuten Doji. So Shuten gets a buff here in the next few months, I believe, where she can charge her NP gauge 20 to 30%. This is a huge, huge buff for her, right? Not to mention the fact that she has an arts NP. It does only have one hit, so it's not like you're going to trot out there and loop everything, right? However, on the append skills, as you'll see, it does require high Kagekiyo LB 5.5 material. It's only 10 though, not too bad. If you really like Shuten, which there are some people in my community who do, then you will go out of your way to make sure that this calendar year, you will have her 50% battery capable, which to even be able to say that is such a boon. It's such a boon. So Shuten, honestly, eating pretty good too. Up next, technically speaking, Nursery Rhyme fits the bill here. So Nursery Rhyme's third skill is a 20 to 40% battery. All you need to do is just unlock the append skill and you have a 50% battery. Now, the reason this is perhaps not the most ideal is a couple of servants you'll see later on. However, it is still an arts NP, and we are still coming up on Castoria. On the append skill side of things, it does require the yarn from High Kagekiyo, so you'll have to either wait on that or wait and see what could happen at anniversary, perhaps, right? Because of that, it is within the realm of reason to get this 50% battery going from her second append skill. Maybe not worth it to take that append skill up to level 10, because as you can see, you'll get there to that 50% threshold just by unlocking it, which for a lot of players will not really be that difficult, especially if you got her early in the game, right? Up next, the weird thumb biter himself, Fionn. He's already going to take a huge step up with Castoria coming. And now, all of a sudden, he is going to be a 50% charger on her release as well. Unprecedented. If we go on down to the append skills, you'll see, though, that this is going to require a later game material, LB6 material. So, again, we'll have to wait and see. All of you Fionn fans, all 17 of you out there who want to start looping with him from day one, you're just going to have to wait a little bit longer to have the full 50% charge from him on the first turn. You'll have to use other methods in order to supplement. I'm sure all 17 of them will have no problem doing that. Up next is Nero Bride. This is another one I hesitated to put on here because when most people use Nero Bride, they're not really looking to use Nero Bride for herself, aka her battery. It is, however, a 20 to 30% battery, so if she wanted to, she could use this on herself and have 50%. It is an arts NP, and honestly, it's a pretty strong NP when Castoria is thrown into the mix as well. It is only 2 hits, so you're not really going to naturally loop everything. However, It's within the realm of reason that she could be your boss killer challenge quest servant, right? On the append skills, it's going to take the 24 yarn from High and Kyo up at the highest level, and 44 proofs. Again, if it's a limited SSR, it's kind of understandable that if you're going to go the extra mile for these append skills, you're probably willing to pay the price in those bronze materials, right? Up next, another one that's in this kind of gray area, Miyu Edelfelt. Obviously, on the JP side of things, she is a completely different servant than she is right now on NA, right? On this third skill, though, it is a 20 to 30% battery. It's targetable, so she could use it on herself if she wanted to. And then on this NP, again, this is not even the same servant. It's not the same servant. Like, it's night and day difference. She is a pain to use on NA right now. However, on JP, she's an absolute asset. She is a fantastic treat to use in battles, especially if you pair her up with a support Castoria or even double of your own. She provides the great healing and utility that Castoria doesn't quite have, right? That being said, on the append skill down here, you can do this from day one if you have farmed these materials enough. Technically speaking, you could make her a 50% self-charger. Again, this is something that is probably more of a longer-term outlook, probably something that we are going to be figuring into our future gameplay decisions when it comes to Miyu. But nevertheless, it is still a 50% capability for Miyu Edelfelt. Next up, huge one, Kets. Wow. Kets on this Monday, this update essentially becomes a first turn absolute juggernaut where you can pop all three of her skills, first, second, and third, get the 20 to 30% battery, get the stars, get the attack up from the first skill, bust her up if she puts this on herself, star absorption, critical damage, NP gauge. With the append skill, if you put it with the 20% at level 10, now you're looking at 50% right here. NP Buster is not out of the realm of possibility. You will do massive, massive damage. Going on down here to the requirements, again, you can have this. Like, there's a pretty good chance that you have farmed enough of these materials as it is, thanks to LB 5.2 being out, right? Another big winner on the NA side of things with this update is Napoleon. Napoleon on his third skill, 20 to 30% battery. A pen skill could take him up to that 50% threshold. With a CE, you could first turn MP or a support. On the append side of things, it's actually a lot more reasonable than his regular skills, which is a little bit surprising to me. So on the active skill, it's 44 bullets, it's 44 proofs, it's like 70 chains. It's a lot of chains, right? It's a lot of chains. It's actually more than that, but hey, math is hard. On the append skill side of things, though, it's 15 of these cores, and that's basically the most demanding part. You do need 10 comet shards, you do need 6 of these scarabs, but that's really not that bad. It's funny to me that his active skills are so much more expensive than his append skill. I guess it kind of makes sense, but there are a lot of servants where the opposite is true, right? So Napoleon eating good in the neighborhood with this recent update. Next up, not to be outdone, on his first skill, by the way, Zerker Vlad, 20 to 30% battery, 6-turn cooldown. He now has 50% capability. Not to mention the fact it's another arts NP servant right before Castoria is coming out that is going to benefit massively from this bombshell set of news that we got tonight, right? On the append skill side of things, though, 72 bells. 72 bells. Not to mention the ungodly amount of stakes, 70 something there as well. But yeah, 72 bells. If you're not familiar with these bells, trust me, you will be someday. These are LB6 mats, and people who need bells need them en masse. They need a lot of them. So you are not necessarily going to be taking Zerker Vlad up to that append skill to level 10 anytime soon, per se, unless something happens. Even then, 72 bells, guys. It's a lot. It's a lot. That being said, we know that Zerker Vlad gets better with time. He gets a lot of great buffs going forward. And because of that, this could be a side project to kind of get the append skill up here or there, or get it up to a certain level, and then just be prepared for him to get his buffs to where he really takes off in utility, right? Next up, we do have Saberlot. Saberlot is another one that can just, like, the first turn, right out of the gate, start doing major damage thanks to this, right? NP, and then potential crit on the face cards. However, massive boon for him and one other Saber that we'll see in a little bit. 30% gauge is flat. It is a flat gauge. Anytime you see me talk about servant kits in videos and you see me talk about flat batteries, you hear me sing their praises. It's a nice little boon for players when we have a servant with a flat battery. He is no exception. He does have a flat battery, which means you don't have to level this much at all. You can just have this unlocked and you'll have the 30% battery. However, on the append skill side of things, you are going to need to get that up to level 10 in order to get the 20%, but it's really not that unreasonable as far as materials go. Yes, it's 20 ice, but that's really not that bad. And again, 36 proofs. Is that a little bit on the steeper side, perhaps, for a 4-star that you can get in the general pool? But honestly, with these append skills, you are going to use them on servants that you either really like or you use a ton or some combination or degree of both, right? Because of that, you're not going to be as worried about the materials, because if this is someone that you want to take up to that next level, honestly, you're going to be willing to pay the price. Also, append skills are not something that all servants are meant to have unlocked. It really is supposed to be something where, like, this is one of my favorites. This is one of my go-tos, my rocks, my absolute MVPs. And the append skills kind of like bolster that role for them in your Chaldea, right? And Saberlot's no exception. Up next, a summer servant, MHXX. On her 3rd skill, this ignore invincible and threat to humanity also has a 20 to 30% battery, which means, due to basic math, as you could probably hear by now, she's going to have that 50% capability, which is big. Again, another art servant that has that access, right? This is another extra class servant, which means that the materials are either going to be really easy for you or just kind of a little bit on the cusp of out of reach. It's not too bad. 12 shards, 12 cores. The other ones are really not that bad either. I think it's worth it to get her to that 50% threshold, especially if she's your go-to foreigner. If she's your anti-berserker servant in your Chaldea, then, like, that's going to be really worth it. Of note, though, on her 3rd append skill over here, it is Moon Cancer enemies. If you played Summer 3, you know about that. There's not a ton of times to get anti-Moon Cancer damage for a lot of players. So if you have her, it might be worth looking into to get this anti-Moon Cancer 3rd append skill unlocked so that you can have a little bit more gameplay flexibility in your roster when going against those servants, right? Up next, my goodness, 2 of the biggest winners of this update. Wow, a VK Braun. A VK Braun on his 2nd skill, it says 79.5%. Call it 80, it's fine. Because of the game's rounding system on your first NP gauge, right? If it's 99, it goes to 100, right? You cannot have 99% NP gauge, it will round to 100. So, if this skill is at level 10 and his 2nd append skill is at level 10, you now have a first turn AoE 100% charger. Obviously, we have that in Nitocris. However, being able to open that roll up to others as well, especially someone who is not Arts, someone who is Buster, so someone who could probably work a little bit better with other support servants, like a Shakespeare, perhaps. If that's the case, then you are definitely going to want to look forward to this append skill. And getting it up to level 10 is really not that bad. Once again, these are really reasonable. For what you're going to get out of this, which is, again, 100% battery on the first turn, it really, really, really is reasonable. And a VK Braun just shot up in my personal tier list due to us getting this early update. I like him anyway. He's underpowered, but man, being able to use, I don't know, a Black Grail on him if you have it, or if you have the F2P version of it with the dragon on there, honestly, it's a huge boon. Not to mention the fact that he does have some steroids for himself on that first skill. So, big win for a VK Braun. Massive win. However, the biggest winner, in my personal opinion, of everyone, Sanzong. Oh my goodness. One of the premier boss or raid servants in the game for NA. Just shot up she was already good. But now becomes a first turn Black Grail, Heaven's Feel, or whatever other NP damage up CE you have. NP user. 80% battery on her first skill, not to mention the NP damage up. Fun fact, on her second skill, she'll get attack up as well as a buff in the future. But the ability to have this 80%, the fact that she hits so hard again, she's amazing at CQs and raid bosses and etc. Her append skill is pretty reasonable, actually, a lot more reasonable than a lot of other SSRs. It is going to be 15 of these fruits as well, but the rest of it is not that bad. It's really not that bad. For what you're getting out of this, which is a immediate first turn juggernaut, that you have tons of flexibility when it comes to craft essences as far as utility goes, especially with Shishu Fest coming up, which can be a pain in the ass for a lot of players. This is a massive dub. Not only for you if you have her, but if you don't, if someone puts this Sanzong with these append skills up on their support list for Shishu Fast, you will reap the benefits. You absolutely will. This upcoming lottery does not have a battery on its currency CE. It can be a little bit painful for a lot of players, right? Especially if you're newer or you are more of a free-to-play style player, right? This update is huge because we're getting it, one, so early, but two, in time for Shishu Fest, which is a pain. But having a Sanzong, having an VK Braun, the ability to use your NP first turn or whenever you want with a non-battery event CE on them, it just cannot be overstated. It really cannot be overstated. It opens up so many doors, and the comps are going to open up as well, as far as the free-to-play Dolphins as well. It's really going to be great for them. Really going to be great for them. If you're like a Mega Whale, obviously, maybe it won't affect you. But even they will be looking forward to this, right? Up next, classic Artoria. On her third skill, 20 to 30% battery, plus 20% on the append skill. We're looking at 50% battery right there. Now, on the append, you are going to need high in Kyo. It is going to be LB 5.5 right there. However, this is not actually that many mats. I was surprised to see this. The material requirement is actually pretty reasonable when it comes to her. Yes, you'll need 34 night metals, but it's Artoria. Like, it kind of makes sense. The rest of it is not that bad. So to get that 50% battery, honestly, it's pretty feasible. Pretty feasible. Artoria is another big winner here. One of the surprise big winners, big winners of this, Semiramis. So Semiramis is no stranger to getting outshined. Gray basically swept the board of all other AoE assassins for many players because they might have only had an NP1 Cleopatra and NP1 Semiramis, right? NP1 Shuten, whereas NP5 Gray for free, you couldn't really pass that up. And the damage obviously does not compare. So the ability for Semiramis to close that gap just a little bit, a lot earlier is nice. Semiramis owners are very happy to see this. 20-30% battery on her first skill. Going on down to the append skill. The requirements for it, honestly, are, again, not too bad at first. However, you're going to need a lot of spinal fluid. I did a double take the first time I saw this while we were looking through these on stream. It's a lot. There's no two ways about it. It's a lot. Now, that being said, on her third append skill, it's anti-Saber. You're just not going to need that. You're not going to want to use that. So that will save you some materials. You can unlock it if she's your favorite, obviously, but there's no way that there's any good reason to take this up to a level 10. Therefore, you're only going to need to experience this pain once on her second append skill, maybe twice if she's absolutely your favorite for the extra attack up, right? So, Semiramis owners eating big. Achilles, my personal favorite in the entire game. Humongous for him to get this early. Humongous for him to get this early. Quick looping with Achilles can be a little bit of a chore. It does require a pretty whaley setup. But on this third skill, the NP 20 to 30% is now going to have that extra 20% ready if this append skill is maxed, which if you have caught up to the game where NA is, you're definitely going to be able to get that 20% unlocked. So 50% first turn battery for Achilles, not to mention the fact that on his third skill, sorry, wrong one, he has NP generation, so NP gain up for that skill, or for that turn as well, making looping that much easier. Again, he's not going to become this like elite Parvati level, Zerkerlot level, Dante's level looper, but this helps a ton. It helps a ton. Moving on, my goodness, Bedivere, such a dub with this announcement. On his second skill, it is a flat battery. I mentioned another Saber. This is that man. Flat battery, 30%. There's really no reason to up this skill much unless you use him a ton. Mental debuff resistance, 30 to 50% is okay. But again, unless you main him or you really like using him, this is more than enough, even to just take it at like level 4, right? Going down to his append skill, it is extremely reasonable for what you're getting out of this. A flat battery, so level 1, 30%, plus these materials, right? So 11 gears, 20 metals, I don't know, 16 steel, and 7 shards, comet shards. That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. So you're looking at a first turn 50% charger with no investment needed on his main so-called active skill. As it is, that's a really good deal. It's a really good deal. You're essentially trading off the materials that it would take for his active skill, which honestly are a lot more steep at 48 chains. You're trading that for this, much more reasonable. That's a big win for Bedivere and Bedivere mains of the world. Next up, one of the biggest winners of all, Scheherazade. She takes a huge step up on a lot of people's tier list when Castoria comes out anyway. There is very good reasons for that. You're going to see why for yourself in just a few weeks. That being said, before Castoria has even arrived, she can go from 20 to 30% battery up to 50% with this second append skill. Now that being said, the append skill is going to need 24 bells. Maybe that's a little bit steep for people. I don't think it is, especially for the fact that she has such great synergy with not only Castoria, but also a borrowed Castoria and, Paracelsus, Tamamo, etc., right? That being said, she's about to just take a huge step up in so many players' eyes. I know she's kind of been memed in the past, but man, she's really going to elevate. Now that being said, again, the third skill is Anti-Berserker. If you like her, you are going to want to take this up. It is elite to have class advantage on this third append skill. It really is, especially if you really like the servant, right? Speaking of elite, this man right here, wow. So he just got a buddy on the JP server in Constantine. Not the easiest of fit as far as synergy goes, Starweight, etc. But there's nothing easier than making a 50% battery more workable than a 20 to 30% battery, which is what he has on his second skill, right? 20-30% battery right there. Down on the append skill side of things, again, you could have all of this. It can be a little bit, but again, we're talking about a limited SSR. I think it's more than worth it, totally within the realm of reason to say, you know what? I want to get that second skill up so I can have a 50% battery on him, so I can use things like aerial drive, right? Not to be too focused in on aerial drive or other 5-star CEs, even if they are welfare. Do not forget that you do, even if you are F2P, have access to a 50% charging CE in the friend point pool. Yes, you are going to need to MLB it. However, Dragon's Meridian is a 50% at MLB charging CE. So theoretically speaking, if you have an MLB of that, you do the append skill for a lot of these servants, and you put that on this servant, you can NP the first turn, right? Now that being said, looking at his costs of his append skills, it kind of puts things into perspective. When you see that he has anti-ruler, as a Lancer, you're not going to use him against a ruler anyway. So it's not that bad, honestly, to have this amount of proofs and this amount of the crowns, right? Is what it is. He's worth it, though. Like, let's be real. It's real, man. Speaking of grand class servants, Arash. Oh my god. My Arash is like Bond 13. I'm geeking out. I'm so happy we got this early. So Arash on his third skill, it is a 20 to 30% battery. Going down to the append skill, though, this is so reasonable. I'm just like giddy. 6 crystals, 3 spirit roots, 6 cores, and 8 arrowheads. Sign me up. Let's fucking go. So you could definitely get this append skill up to level 10 if you really want to. It's not going to be that difficult. And if a lot of you, like me, have the bond levels already there, you're going to get the coins to make that possible from day one. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So definitely look forward to this. Not only on Arash, we mentioned Spartacus earlier. Huge win. Huge win. Up next, another one that I kind of hesitated to put on here. Parvati is one of my favorite servants, right? But the idea that she would be benefiting from this is not like immediately and universally applicable, right? Her battery, technically speaking, is only 10% for herself. It is a 10% NP reduction that increases by 20%. If I take 10 away and I add 20, I've only added 10, right? However, as my chat pointed out to me, there are some cases in which someone is going to use an MLB imaginary element. And if they are using an imaginary element at MLB, this was not going to do it. This wasn't going to do it at all. It was going to add 10% to that, which would get her to 85%. That means on this append skill, if I just have it to level 5, plus a 50% CE, and then use that skill, suddenly I am a first turn NP with Parvati without using Scotty skills. Huge, huge. She's already a very, very easy looper. Honestly, one of the most impressive 4-stars in the game. So the ability to do this is going to be big. Now, that being said, on the append skill, you are going to either need to hope or wait or both that we can get the yarn whenever we can get it, right? Because of the fact that you will need 20 of them, and again, they are a Kagekiyo material, we're just going to need to wait and see what happens, right? Maybe we'll have to wait till November, maybe something happens, who knows. That being said, there is a clear usage case where you have this, give her a 10% battery because it's level 10, and then give a little bit of the second append skill to bridge the gap on an imaginary element at MLB, right? Now, that being said, if you use a scope non-MLB on her and you give her this 10%, guess what? All you need to do is unlock the append skill. Just unlock the append skill and you have that 100% battery. That's really big. Again, for a quick looping servant like Parvati, I know we are entering the age of Castoria, but as someone who has a dedicated quick account and someone who loves using Parvati, I will be looking forward to having this capability earlier than we were projected to get it. Very much so. Next up, Nero Claudius. So when we talk about art servants, we talk about looping art servants. We don't talk about Nero Claudius. We just don't. It is a single hit. It is good. Like, she's powerful. But we don't really think of that, right? You can brute force your way to a loop, right? Her skills are not the best. Like, the guts 3x 5 turn, that's fine. Imperial privilege is never a good skill in general. But on her first skill, she does have a 20 to 30% battery. 20 to 30% battery. So again, a pen skill can take you to 50. You can use a CE. Then if you're running double Castoria or Rhaenys and Castoria or Waver or Scotty, take your pick. Any combination of those that can give 50% per support servant. You can use her NP twice in a row. You don't care about the fact that this is a single hit arts NP. Now, that being said, down here on the skills itself, you are going to need 20 of these crowns. Not too bad. And then 8 comet shards. I actually think it's pretty reasonable. Considering that she is a story lock servant, if you have her, you probably tried to get her. And if you tried to get her, you probably like her enough that you would consider using the append skill on her. So definitely reasonable in that regard. Next up, one of my absolute favorites, Chen Gong. Again, this is one we kind of debated during stream about whether or not to include here. He does benefit. It is another imaginary element, use case scenario type of thing, or non-MLB scope, right? He does have a 10% battery over here on this second skill. It's a flat 10%. That's fantastic. If you're a madman like me who has a level 100 2K Chen Gong, who's been chomping at the bit for the 120 update to get here, it coming early is a shock, and I'm not sure that I'm ready for it, but I'm very ready for a 120 Chen Gong to be paired up with Castoria from day one. It's just going to be absurd amounts of damage. If you are not taking that route, you can still use Chen Gong with either imaginary element at MLB or a scope non-MLB by using this 10% battery and then some degree of this second append skill, right? Now going on down here to his skill, it's really not that bad. It's steeper than most low star servants we noticed. You are looking at, what are we looking at? 36 bullets right there. That's steep. That's steep. But you really only need one append skill. His third append skill is anti-lancer. That's just not going to be useful no matter what your uses are for Chen Gong. And then 8 reactor cores. That's not bad at all. So there is a case where if you just unlock the second append skill, you now have 10% there and 10% on his own battery. Congrats, your scope is now an MLB scope, except for the attack stat. But that being said, you can do some degree of mixing and matching, even if you only took that second append skill up to level 5. At level 5, you're only looking at 8 crystals. It's really not bad. It's really, really not bad. So that is completely worth it, in my opinion, right? But I'm biased. Again, my Chen Gong is roided out. Next up, one that caught us by surprise was Sitanai. So Sitanai's third skill is a 20 to 30% charge. And she is going to be well worth it because of the fact that, one, she is an alter ego, so extra class, which means that her mats are extremely reasonable early on. On the append skill side of things, all of these materials are obtainable by all NA players if they have caught up to story up to like LB3, I think, maybe LB4. If you have made it that far, then you probably have enough materials or you have access to farm them to get this second append skill up to a high level. Then on her third append skill, the anti-saber means that you don't need to worry about it whatsoever. However, unlike a lot of other servants, I'm going to highlight the first append skill for her. She does have invincibility for an entire turn. She then reduces party's damage taken for 3 attacks over 3 turns. It's not a lot, but it is there. On her second skill, it's debuff immunity. You can start to see a scenario in which she has good survivability and longevity in a fight. On her third skill here, there is not a heal, but there is stars per turn. It's chance-based only. That just means that there are some support servants that go really well with her. Unfortunately, there is also not a heal on her NP. If she had that, she'd obviously be a solo capable servant. But even without that, she can last longer than a lot of other servants because of the debuff immunity and the invincible. And so because of that, you might be looking to get this first skill unlocked as well. First append skills are actually they're really powerful. First append skills are very, very powerful. It should be noted that it is a 30 to 50% buff to your extra attack performance. That's really big. You will notice a difference. You will notice a difference. If you've seen some of my other content with the bar guests that we've used, that append skill for the extra attack performance, it becomes a whole nother NP. Now that was a 120 bar guest with a bond CE, etc, etc. However, you will notice a difference with the extra attack first skill. So if it is a servant who has some longevity like a Sitanai does, you might look to use that even if you just unlock it. 30% is nothing to scoff at. That is the last of our servants that we had picked out. I think it's like 44 or something crazy servants who are immediately, as soon as they release or as soon as they get a buff, going to benefit from this early implementation, right? So when we talk about this being early, it really is unprecedented for this kind of like a massive bombshell quality of life update to come so early. The 2 billion QP alone, that would have been huge as we come up to a lottery this fall. But the fact that we have append skills and coins in the game right now, obviously it's not everyone's cup of tea. There are some who call it a bit of a cash grab. However, if you limit the use cases and you take a look at it under a more scrutinizing, microscopic view and say, I only want to consider a few servants for this. If you have that consideration of it, honestly, it's really not that bad. It will not cost you any extra money depending on the servant. If it's a limited SSR, a limited 4-star, obviously that's a much different conversation. But for many of these servants that this is extremely worth it on, we're talking Arash, we're talking Parvati, Spartacus, and a lot of other ones that could potentially spook you from the general pool. you might have them already, even if you are free to play or a dolphin. Spartacus and Arash are going to be easy to get multiple copies of over the course of the next year because of the fact that you have a free friend point draw every single day, right? So because of that, it's really not that far out of the realm of possibility that a pure free-to-play player could make use of these append skills either from day one, depending on your friend point rolls or your servants that you already have, or over the course of the next few months, and have those matter for the lottery this fall. Again, the lottery this fall can be a bit of a pain. It can be a bit of a pain, right? Now, that being said, I'm so happy in general that we got this early. I'm grateful. Thank you, Mr. Tucson. Thank you to the devs for giving us this early. I'm not trying to make it sound like a universally good thing. Like, there are going to be people who are going to be a little bit stressed about this. There are going to be people who maybe don't care about this. That's totally fine. To each their own. But for idiots like me who cannot wait to take Arjuna Alter's second append skill up to max, man, I'm just over the moon. Especially when it comes to the QP cap being at 2 billion. That really is massive. On the JP account, when we did Barbados raids, we hit that QP cap, and it was a lot nicer to have that buffer compared to the 999, right? So because of that, not having the first billion over the course of the months following the lottery, it means that extra cushion is going to add up big time. So I very much look forward to that. Very much look forward to that. Also, it'll be kind of cool to see people's favorite servants. You can demarcate that with the red dot that you see here, right? When we talk about Shishu Fest, this is not the video in which I'm going to go through that, but when we talk about how it's a pain in the ass, it's because of this 2-1-2 type of thing, right? It's because of this 1-3-2. I talked about a VK Braun. I talked about Sanzong. That's 104k single target on the first wave, right? Going on down, a 1, a 1, a 2. As you can see, the ability to have any extra battery for this specific lottery is massive. Massive. Across all of the most difficult nodes. The legend nodes, quote unquote, right? So very, very, very good look that we got this when we did. Very, very useful. And also it's just nice. It's just nice. As someone who plays both the NA and JP servers, my accounts are completely endgame on both. It really is cool to see something that I feel like not too long ago we were excited about on the JP side of things and talking about and a buzz about, now here on NA way early. It really is nice to see that. So anyway, I've been rambling. My voice has been shot. It's going out as it is. And I really appreciate you watching this. I really appreciate you hanging out here, whether it's on stream or watching this video. I want to hear from you though. So in the comments below, are you looking forward to any specific servant getting append skills? Do you care about append skills? Do you not care about them? Are you more interested in perhaps maybe the 100 to 120 implementation coming early? Are you perhaps more interested in the QP cap? Or is all of this just like a complete wash to you and you're just ready for the next event? Let me know in the comments below after you hit that like and subscribe buttons, obviously. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next stream. Twitch.tv/Sharkwidow. Take care, guys.